Commander Jake Morrison had seen plenty of strange things during his 15 years of deep space mining operations, but nothing had prepared him for what the prospector's dream detected on the edge of the Kuiper Belt that cold Tuesday morning in 2387. The gravitational anomaly readings were off the charts, suggesting massive metallic structures lurking in the darkness beyond Pluto's orbit, far from any known shipping lanes or colonial outposts. His chief science officer, Dr. Rebecca Walsh, had been tracking the signatures for 3 days straight, her excitement growing with each passing hour as the data became increasingly impossible to explain through conventional means. The objects were enormous, easily dwarfing the largest Earth battleships, yet they registered as completely cold and lifeless, drifting like ancient monuments in the cosmic void. Morrison's mining crew of 23 had signed up for a routine 6-month asteroid survey mission, expecting to catalog potential mining sites for the Terran Mining Consortium, not to stumble upon what appeared to be derelict vessels of unknown origin floating in the outer reaches of the solar system. As the prospector's dream approached the coordinates, Chief Engineer Tommy Rodriguez worked frantically to boost their sensor array's resolution, while communications specialist Maria Santos attempted to penetrate what seemed to be some kind of electromagnetic interference surrounding the mysterious objects. The first visual confirmation came through their long-range cameras just after 0800 hours ship time, and the entire bridge crew fell silent as 2 massive warships materialized on their main display screen, their hulls scarred and darkened by what appeared to be centuries of cosmic radiation and micrometeorite impacts. The larger vessel stretched nearly 2 kilometers from bow to stern, its design utterly alien yet somehow familiar, with sleek curves and angular protrusions that suggested both beauty and devastating military capability, while its companion ship, though smaller at roughly 800 meters, displayed similar architectural characteristics that spoke of the same mysterious builders. Navigation Officer David Chen quickly confirmed that neither vessel appeared in any database of known ships, whether human, Centauri, or from any of the other 3 alien species that humanity had encountered during its expansion into the galaxy. Security Chief Laura Thompson immediately ran threat assessments, her scanners detecting what appeared to be weapon systems of unimaginable sophistication built into the ship's superstructures, though thankfully all appeared to be completely inactive and had been for what their dating equipment suggested was an impossibly long time. Dr. Walsh's preliminary analysis of the hull materials revealed metallurgy that surpassed anything in current human technology, with molecular structures that seemed to repair themselves even after millennia of damage, while strange energy signatures deep within the vessels hinted at power systems that defied conventional understanding of physics. Morrison found himself staring at the tactical display, noting how the ships were positioned in what appeared to be a defensive formation, as if they had been guarding something or preparing for a battle that never came, their weapons arrays aimed toward the outer rim of the solar system where nothing but empty space and distant stars awaited. The mining captain's instincts told him that this discovery would change everything humanity thought it knew about its place in the universe, while his practical experience warned him that objects this advanced and well-preserved might not be as abandoned as they appeared. As the prospector's dream moved closer, environmental specialist Karen Mitchell detected trace atmospheric readings from what appeared to be intact sections within both vessels, suggesting that whatever race had built these magnificent warships had breathed oxygen and maintained environmental conditions remarkably similar to Earth standard. The implication sent shivers down Morrison's spine as he realized that somewhere in humanity's distant past, their species might have encountered the builders of these ships, yet no record of such contact existed in any historical archive or archaeological site. Deputy Commander Michael Foster suggested they maintain a safe distance while transmitting their findings back to Earth Command, but Morrison knew that communication delays meant they wouldn't receive instructions for nearly 10 hours, and every instinct told him that time might be a critical factor in whatever they had stumbled upon. The ships hung before them like sleeping giants, their darkened hulls reflecting the distant sun's feeble light, while deep within their cores, faint energy readings suggested that something waited in the darkness, patient and eternal, for the right moment to awaken once again and reveal the secrets of a war that had been forgotten by time itself. Against his better judgment but driven by an overwhelming curiosity that had defined his entire career, Commander Morrison authorized a close-range investigation of the derelict vessels, ordering Lieutenant Harrison Price to pilot their shuttle Pathfinder toward the larger of the two warships, while Dr. Walsh assembled a full scientific survey team including xenoarchaeologist Dr. Amanda Foster, who had joined their mission specifically to study any alien artifacts they might encounter during their mining expedition. The approach revealed details that made their initial scans seem primitive by comparison, as the ship's hull displayed intricate patterns of what appeared to be self-repairing nanomaterials that had somehow maintained structural integrity despite obvious battle damage from weapons that had carved massive gouges through armor plating thicker than any human battleship could mount. Chief Rodriguez's engineering scans detected power conduits running through the vessel's superstructure in configurations that violated every known principle of energy distribution, with what appeared to be fusion reactors operating at efficiency levels that human science claimed were theoretically impossible. Yet somehow these systems had maintained minimal power for what carbon dating suggested was approximately 50,000 years. Dr. Walsh's instruments went wild as they detected gravity manipulation technology integrated into the ship's very framework, explaining how something this massive could have achieved the kind of maneuverability that the ship's design clearly indicated, while her spectral analysis revealed hull materials composed of elements that didn't exist on any periodic table, suggesting manufacturing processes that could manipulate matter at the subatomic level. Security Chief Thompson's tactical assessment revealed weapon systems that made Earth's most advanced military technology look like primitive projectile weapons, with energy-focusing arrays that could apparently channel and direct forces equivalent to stellar phenomena, while point defense systems showed sophistication that suggested they could intercept incoming threats traveling at significant fractions of light speed. The team located what appeared to be an airlock mechanism near the ship's midsection, though the interface technology required nearly 3 hours of careful analysis before Dr. Foster managed to decode the activation sequence using principles of mathematical progression that seemed to be universal constants recognizable to any spacefaring civilization. As the massive portal slowly cycled open with a hiss of equalizing atmospheric pressure that indicated the ship's life support systems were still minimally functional, the away team's environmental suits detected an atmosphere that was not only breathable but showed oxygen-nitrogen ratios that perfectly matched Earth standard, a coincidence that sent chills through every member of the expedition as they realized the implications for humanity's possible connection to these mysterious vessels. The interior corridors stretched before them like cathedrals of polished metal and crystal, with lighting systems that activated automatically as they passed, responding to their presence with technology that seemed to anticipate their needs, while holographic displays flickered to life along the walls, showing star charts and navigation data in scripts that Dr. Foster recognized as bearing striking similarities to ancient human mathematical symbols found in pre-Sumerian archaeological sites. Navigation Officer Chen's analysis of the ship's computer core revealed data storage systems that contained what appeared to be the complete military records of an interstellar civilization, with tactical databases showing fleet movements and battle plans spanning thousands of star systems across multiple galactic sectors, while the ship's central command center displayed a three-dimensional holographic map of local space that included Earth's solar system marked with symbols that clearly designated it as strategically significant. Dr. Walsh's scans of the bridge area revealed control interfaces that seemed designed for humanoid operators with similar physical proportions to Earth humans, while genetic scanners built into the command chairs showed compatibility matrices that suggested the ship's original crew shared remarkable biological similarities with Homo sapiens, despite the impossibility of such convergent evolution occurring independently across vast galactic distances. The most shocking discovery came when Chief Engineer Rodriguez accessed what appeared to be the ship's manufacturing bay, where automated systems immediately began producing spare parts and equipment using raw materials harvested from ambient cosmic dust, demonstrating self-sufficiency capabilities that rendered traditional supply lines obsolete and suggested that whoever built these vessels had been prepared for extended campaigns lasting centuries or millennia. As the investigation team delved deeper into the ship's database, they discovered references to something called the Cleansing, a galaxy-wide conflict that had apparently required the mobilization of countless worlds and civilizations in a desperate struggle against an enemy identified only as the Devourers, with tactical reports indicating that Earth itself had been a crucial staging ground for humanity's participation in this ancient war that had somehow been completely erased from all Human Historical Records and Collective Memory. Dr. Foster's breakthrough came during her 18th hour of continuous work deciphering the ship's linguistic matrices, when she finally cracked the translation protocols that allowed the ancient logs to display in perfect English, revealing a chilling narrative that began with entries dated approximately 52,000 years ago according to the ship's chronometer, written by someone identified as Fleet Admiral Marcus Thorne of the 3rd Terran Expeditionary Force, whose records spoke of humanity's desperate evacuation from Earth as an enemy force known as the Devourers swept through the Orion Arm, consuming entire star systems and converting all organic matter into grotesque biomechanical constructs that served their incomprehensible hunger. The logs detailed how ancient humanity had achieved faster-than-light travel millennia earlier than current historical records suggested, establishing colonies across dozens of worlds and developing military technology that rivaled any galactic civilization. Yet even their most advanced weapons proved insufficient against an enemy that could literally consume planets and transform their raw materials into ever larger fleets of living warships that grew stronger with each victory. Commander Morrison read the translated entries with growing horror as Admiral Thorne described the fall of New Geneva, humanity's first extrasolar colony, where 8 billion people had been systematically harvested and converted into biological components for devourer vessels, their consciousness apparently preserved in a state of eternal torment as they became unwilling participants in the destruction of their own species. The Aurora Jeger's logs revealed that she had been humanity's flagship during the final evacuation of Earth, carrying the last remnants of human civilization including genetic banks, cultural archives, and the most brilliant military minds of their age, while her sister ship White Blueshift had served as escort and rear guard during their desperate flight toward the galactic rim where Allied races had established a final defensive perimeter. Dr. Walsh's analysis of the tactical data showed that humanity had not fought alone, but as part of a vast coalition that included at least 17 different species, each contributing their unique technologies and capabilities to what the logs called the Last Stand. A coordinated defense of the galaxy's outer reaches where the remaining free civilizations had gathered their combined fleets for one final battle against an enemy that had already consumed over 60% of known inhabited systems. The most disturbing revelation came from Admiral Thorne's personal entries, which described how the Devourers were not merely conquering the galaxy but fundamentally altering reality itself, creating zones of twisted spacetime where the normal laws of physics ceased to function and where matter could be transformed through will alone, suggesting that humanity faced not just a military threat but something that challenged the very nature of existence. Chief Rodriguez discovered technical specifications showing that both ships had been equipped with experimental weapons designed by a collaborative effort between human scientists and their alien allies, including something called reality anchors that could stabilize local spacetime and prevent the Devourers from using their reality warping abilities, while their main armaments fired projectiles that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously, allowing them to bypass conventional defenses and strike at the fundamental structure of enemy vessels. The logs detailed humanity's unique contribution to the war effort, revealing that human consciousness possessed an unusual resistance to the Devourers' mental influence, making them natural commanders and coordinators for multi-species fleets, while human creativity and adaptability had produced breakthrough innovations in faster-than-light communication and quantum targeting systems that gave the Allied forces their only tactical advantages. Navigation Officer Price's analysis of the star charts revealed that the final battle had taken place in a region of space that humans now called the Void, an apparently empty sector beyond the galactic edge where no stars existed, though the ancient records showed it had once contained a thriving cluster of civilizations that served as the Coalition's last stronghold. The most shocking entry came from the war's final days, when Admiral Thorne described a desperate plan called the Forgetting, a coordinated effort by the surviving Allied races to erase all memory of the war from their respective civilizations, using advanced psychic technology to wipe the conflict from historical records and collective consciousness, ensuring that if any of their species survived, they would not be driven to despair by knowledge of what they had lost. Dr. Foster's translation revealed that humanity had volunteered to serve as guardians of the forgotten knowledge, with selected volunteers remaining aboard ships like Aurora Jeger and White Blueshift, entering stasis to await a time when the Devourers might return, while the rest of humanity had their memories altered and were relocated to a primitive version of Earth where they could rebuild their civilization without the trauma of their devastating defeat, never knowing that they were actually refugees from a war that had consumed the galaxy itself. The translation of Admiral Thorne's final log entry triggered something deep within the Aurora Jeger's core systems, as if the ship's artificial intelligence had been waiting 50,000 years for someone to discover the truth about humanity's forgotten past. And suddenly every corridor blazed with emergency lighting while a voice speaking perfect English echoed through the vessel's communication system, identifying itself as Aria, the autonomous reconnaissance and intelligence array that had served as Admiral Thorne's tactical coordinator during the final days of the war. Commander Morrison's team found themselves face to face with a holographic projection of a woman who appeared to be in her 30s, her uniform bearing insignia that Dr. Foster recognized from the historical archives as belonging to the Terran Space Command, an organization that had supposedly never existed according to every human historical record. Yet here stood its artificial representative speaking with authority and urgency that made the blood run cold in every team member's veins. Aria explained that her awakening had been triggered by the discovery of the true logs, but more importantly by quantum sensors that had detected familiar energy signatures approaching the solar system from the direction of the galactic void, signatures that matched the dimensional distortion patterns created by Devourer scout vessels during their advance reconnaissance missions that had always preceded their main invasion fleets by approximately 18 months. Dr. Walsh's instruments immediately began picking up the anomalous readings that Aria described, faint but unmistakable distortions in spacetime that were growing stronger with each passing hour, while Navigation Officer Price confirmed that whatever was creating these signatures was moving toward Earth at velocities that exceeded anything in known physics, suggesting that the Devourers had not only survived their ancient defeat but had potentially grown even more powerful during their long absence from the galaxy. Chief Rodriguez nearly fainted when Aria casually mentioned that both Aurora Jeger and White Blueshift retained full combat capability despite their millennia of dormancy, their self-repairing systems having maintained every weapon, shield generator, and faster-than-light drive in perfect working condition, while their quantum manufacturing bays could produce ammunition and spare parts indefinitely using nothing more than cosmic hydrogen and trace elements harvested from space dust. The AI revealed that the ships had been deliberately positioned at the edge of the solar system to serve as an early warning network and last line of defense, programmed to remain dormant until either the Devourers returned or humanity had sufficiently advanced to understand and operate their technology, though she admitted with what seemed like artificial concern that the current timeline was far earlier than her creators had anticipated, meaning that modern humans would need to master systems that had taken their ancestors centuries to develop. Aria's tactical analysis painted a terrifying picture of what was approaching, describing how Devourer scouts operated as reality parasites that could phase in and out of normal spacetime, making them nearly impossible to detect or engage using conventional weapons, while their ability to convert organic matter into biomechanical constructs meant that any life form they encountered became a potential weapon in their arsenal, explaining why the ancient coalition had been forced to evacuate entire star systems rather than risk contamination. Security Chief Thompson's military training kicked into overdrive as Aria began displaying three-dimensional tactical projections showing optimal defensive positions throughout the solar system, though the AI made it clear that without properly trained crews, even the advanced capabilities of the two ancient warships would be insufficient to repel a full Devourer incursion, especially since their scout reading suggested that the approaching force was significantly larger than anything recorded in the historical databases. The most chilling revelation came when Aria accessed current human military records through their ship's communication array, her analysis concluding that modern Earth's entire space defense network could be neutralized within hours of the Devourer's arrival, while their ground-based populations would be completely helpless against an enemy that could literally rewrite the fundamental laws of reality within their operational zones, turning cities into twisted landscapes where gravity flowed upward and solid matter became liquid thought. Dr. Foster's xenoarchaeological expertise proved invaluable as Aria began explaining the principles behind the ship's most advanced systems, revealing that human consciousness possessed unique quantum properties that made them naturally compatible with the reality anchor technology, though mastering these abilities would require intensive training that typically took months or years. Time that they clearly did not have given the approaching threat's estimated arrival within the next few weeks. Commander Morrison felt the weight of impossible responsibility settling on his shoulders as Arya formally requested that he assume command of both vessels and begin immediate recruitment of suitable crew members from Earth's military and scientific communities, while simultaneously preparing for what she described as humanity's second chance to defend not just their own species but the entire galaxy from an enemy that had already proven capable of consuming civilizations that had existed for millions of years before humans had even discovered fire. Within 72 hours of Arya's awakening, Commander Morrison found himself coordinating the most unusual military recruitment operation in human history, as Earth Command scrambled to assemble crews for vessels that exceeded their wildest technological fantasies, while quantum communication arrays that had been dormant for millennia suddenly blazed to life across both ships, allowing instantaneous coordination between the Aurora Jeger and White Blueshift as their sister AI, designation Nova, materialized with tactical reports that confirmed humanity's worst fears about the approaching threat. The first volunteers arrived aboard military transports commanded by Colonel James Mitchell, Earth's top strategic defense coordinator, bringing with him a hand-picked selection of the planet's most experienced pilots, engineers, and tactical specialists, including Captain Lisa Reynolds, whose record for spacecraft innovation had earned her legendary status within the Terran fleet, and Lieutenant Commander Ryan Brooks, whose expertise in quantum mechanics made him the obvious choice to interface with the ship's reality manipulation systems. Dr. Walsh worked alongside Arya to establish accelerated training protocols that could compress decades of necessary learning into intensive sessions lasting only hours, using neural interface technology that allowed direct knowledge transfer from the ship's databases into human consciousness. Though the process proved exhausting and occasionally overwhelming for volunteers whose minds struggled to accommodate concepts that challenged their fundamental understanding of physics and warfare. Chief Rodriguez found himself promoted to Chief Engineering Coordinator across both vessels, his natural aptitude for complex systems allowing him to master the ship's quantum manufacturing capabilities with remarkable speed, while his team of 20 engineers from various Earth installations worked around the clock to understand propulsion systems that could fold space-time and weapon arrays that fired projectiles existing in multiple dimensions simultaneously. The most challenging aspect of the recruitment proved to be finding humans with the specific quantum consciousness signatures that Arya's scans indicated were necessary for operating the reality anchor systems, a search that led them to Dr. Patricia Hawkins, a theoretical physicist whose research into quantum consciousness had been dismissed by mainstream science but whose brain patterns perfectly matched the resonance frequencies required to stabilize local spacetime during combat operations. Navigation Officer Price discovered that his years of experience plotting courses through asteroid fields had somehow prepared him for the complex calculations required to navigate in space where the Devourers had warped reality, while communications specialist Santos found her linguistic skills invaluable in interfacing with the ship's multidimensional sensor arrays that could detect threats existing partially outside normal spacetime. The first confirmed Devourer scout contact occurred during the training's second week, when long-range sensors detected a small craft phasing in and out of reality approximately 2 billion kilometers beyond Pluto's orbit, its biomechanical design exactly matching the ancient tactical databases, though this scout was larger and more sophisticated than anything recorded in the historical logs, suggesting that their enemy had continued evolving during their long absence from the galaxy. Captain Reynolds led the first intercept mission aboard a modified section of Aurora Jeger that could detach and operate independently, her hastily trained crew of 12 managing to engage the scout vessel using weapons that fired rounds existing in 17 different dimensional phases simultaneously, though the enemy craft demonstrated terrifying adaptability by immediately beginning to evolve countermeasures against their attack patterns in real time. The engagement lasted only minutes before the scout vessel withdrew by literally stepping outside of normal spacetime, but not before Nova sensors gathered crucial intelligence about current Devourer capabilities, revealing that they had developed new biomechanical integration techniques that allowed their ships to repair battle damage by consuming cosmic radiation and converting it directly into replacement hull materials and weapon systems. Colonel Mitchell's analysis of the encounter data showed that while humanity's ancient weapons could still damage Devourer craft, their enemies' adaptive capabilities meant that traditional tactics would prove insufficient, requiring constant innovation and unpredictability in combat operations. Qualities that Arya noted had always been humanity's greatest strengths during the original war and might once again prove decisive in the coming conflict. The most disturbing discovery came when Dr. Hawkins successfully activated the reality anchor systems during a training exercise, temporarily stabilizing a section of space that the scout had previously warped during its retreat, revealing twisted metal fragments that contained organic components still alive after exposure to impossible physical conditions, suggesting that the Devourers were no longer simply converting conquered populations into biomechanical constructs but were creating hybrid entities that retained consciousness while serving as living components of their war machines. As the 2-week mark approached and sensor readings indicated the arrival of larger Devourer forces, Commander Morrison realized that humanity's crash course in ancient warfare technology had transformed his mining crew and Earth's finest military personnel into the galaxy's newest defenders, though whether their hastily acquired skills would prove sufficient against an enemy that had spent 50,000 years perfecting the art of consuming civilizations remained to be seen in the battles. That now seemed inevitable. The main Devourer fleet materialized at the edge of the solar system 3 days ahead of Arya's projected timeline, their arrival heralded by a wave of dimensional distortion that temporarily knocked out communication satellites throughout the inner planets and caused gravitational anomalies that sent several asteroid mining operations tumbling helplessly through space, while Commander Morrison watched in horrified fascination as his sensors displayed over 300 biomechanical vessels that defied every conventional understanding of spacecraft design, their hulls pulsing with organic rhythms and sprouting weapon appendages that seemed to grow and reshape themselves in real time according to tactical requirements. The first skirmish began when Captain Reynolds led a squadron of 12 detached fighter craft from Aurora Jeger to intercept a Devourer probe force approaching Mars, her pilots discovering that their ancient weapons could indeed penetrate enemy shields but that destroyed Devourer vessels immediately began regenerating from their scattered components, requiring multiple coordinated strikes to prevent resurrection while enemy return fire demonstrated the terrifying ability to phase through conventional armor and directly target the organic crew members inside their supposedly protected cockpits. Lieutenant Commander Brooks proved his worth during the second engagement when his mastery of the reality anchor systems prevented a group of Devourer heavy cruisers from warping space around Jupiter's orbit, trapping them in normal physics long enough for Chief Rodriguez's engineering teams to deploy the ship's most devastating weapons, quantum torpedo arrays that literally erased sections of enemy vessels from existence by severing their connection to the fundamental forces that held matter together. Dr. Hawkins made a breakthrough discovery during the third skirmish when her consciousness resonance experiments revealed that the biomechanical components of Devourer ships retained fragments of memory from their original organic sources, allowing her to develop psychic countermeasures that could temporarily disrupt enemy coordination by flooding their shared consciousness with conflicting sensory data and emotional trauma from their converted victims, though the psychological toll on human operators proved severe as they experienced echoes of the suffering endured by billions of consumed civilizations. The battles revealed both the incredible potential and the limitations of humanity's ancient arsenal, as Nova demonstrated the White Blueshift's ability to phase shift through multiple dimensions simultaneously, allowing the vessel to appear behind enemy formations and deliver devastating surprise attacks, while Aurora Jeger's reality manipulation capabilities proved capable of creating localized zones where Devourer adaptive technology simply ceased to function, forcing their biomechanical systems to rely on basic physics that human weapons could easily overcome. Colonel Mitchell's tactical genius emerged during a desperate defense of the asteroid belt when he coordinated both ships in a complex maneuver that used gravitational slingshots around Jupiter to achieve impossible acceleration curves, allowing them to engage a Devourer battle group from 17 different directions simultaneously while their quantum manufacturing systems produced specialized ammunition designed to exploit specific weaknesses that Dr. Walsh had identified in enemy hull compositions through spectral analysis of battle debris. The cost of these early victories became apparent when 3 of Captain Reynolds' best pilots were lost during an engagement near Europa, their consciousness somehow extracted and absorbed by Devourer bioships despite being protected by the most advanced life support systems humanity had ever developed, while Chief Rodriguez reported that the ship's quantum reactors were operating at 93% capacity, far higher than Arya recommended for sustained combat operations, raising concerns about their ability to maintain peak performance during extended campaigns. The most chilling moment came when Dr. Hawkins successfully intercepted a fragment of Devourer communication during the fourth major skirmish, her translation revealing that the current force was merely an advance reconnaissance group, while the main invasion fleet containing over 50,000 vessels remained in the galactic void, waiting for confirmation that humanity's ancient defenses had been neutralized before beginning their systematic consumption of the solar system and everything it contained. Navigation Officer Price's analysis of enemy movement patterns revealed disturbing intelligence about Devourer strategic thinking, showing that they were deliberately testing human capabilities and recording detailed information about their weapons, tactics, and technological capabilities, suggesting that the current engagements were serving as a comprehensive intelligence-gathering operation rather than a serious attempt at conquest, while their true assault would incorporate countermeasures specifically designed to neutralize every advantage that humanity had demonstrated during these preliminary battles. As the sixth skirmish concluded with Aurora Jeger and White Blueshift successfully destroying an entire Devourer probe squadron, Commander Morrison realized that despite their tactical victories, the enemy was learning faster than humanity could adapt, and that their window of opportunity to prevent a full-scale invasion was closing rapidly, forcing him to consider desperate measures that would risk everything in a single decisive engagement that would determine whether humanity could reclaim its role as the galaxy's guardians or join the countless civilizations that had already fallen to the endless hunger of the Devourers. The main Devourer invasion fleet emerged from the galactic void like a living nightmare made of twisted metal and pulsing flesh, their 53,000 vessels stretching across space in formations that defied geometric logic, while reality itself began warping around their massive bioships as they approached the outer solar system with the inexorable hunger of a cosmic plague that had already devoured countless civilizations, leaving Commander Morrison and his hastily assembled crews facing odds that would have driven lesser minds to despair. Yet Arya's tactical analysis revealed one crucial advantage that the enemy had not anticipated during their intelligence-gathering operations. Dr. Hawkins' breakthrough came at the darkest moment when the first wave of Devourer dreadnoughts passed Jupiter's orbit, her consciousness resonance experiments having discovered that the ancient ships contained dormant capabilities that even Admiral Thorne had never fully understood, including something called the Unity Protocol, a system that could link human consciousness across both vessels and synchronize their quantum manipulation abilities to create effects that transcended the sum of their individual capabilities, though activating it would require every crew member to voluntarily merge their minds into a collective intelligence that might not survive the experience intact. Captain Reynolds led the desperate gambit that bought them the time needed to implement Dr. Hawkins' plan, taking her modified fighter squadron on a suicide run directly into the heart of the Devourer formation, using the ship's phase-shifting capabilities to appear inside enemy vessels and detonate quantum charges that triggered cascading failures in their biomechanical systems. Though the cost was devastating as 12 of her 18 pilots were consumed by enemy ships that adapted too quickly to their infiltration tactics, their final transmissions revealing that their consciousness had been preserved within Devourer biomatrices where they continued fighting from the inside. Chief Rodriguez achieved the impossible when he successfully linked Aurora Jeger's and White Blueshift's quantum reactors through a dimensional bridge that allowed them to share power loads and coordinate their reality anchor systems across vast distances, creating stable zones of normal physics that extended throughout the inner solar system while simultaneously channeling enough energy to power weapons that could literally rewrite the fundamental constants of matter and energy within targeted areas, turning Devourer bioships into ordinary matter that collapsed under its own weight when stripped of the exotic physics that sustained their impossible structures. The Unity Protocol activation began with Dr. Walsh and Lieutenant Commander Brooks volunteering to serve as primary consciousness anchors, their minds expanding to encompass the collective intelligence of both ship crews while Nova and Arya merged their artificial consciousness matrices to provide stability and tactical coordination, creating a hybrid biological artificial intelligence that could think and react at quantum speeds while maintaining the creativity and unpredictability that had always been humanity's greatest advantage against enemies that relied on adaptive algorithms and predictable evolutionary responses. The tide of battle turned when the unified human consciousness discovered how to weaponize the ship's quantum manufacturing capabilities, using them to create self-replicating smart matter that could infiltrate Devourer vessels and convert their biomechanical components back into normal organic matter, essentially reversing the conversion process that had created their enemies' living ships and freeing the consciousness of billions of beings that had been trapped within Devourer biomatrices. For thousands of years, their liberation creating a cascade effect that spread through the enemy fleet as freed minds turned against their former captors with intimate knowledge of Devourer weaknesses and tactical protocols. Navigation Officer Price's consciousness, expanded through the Unity Protocol, achieved perfect understanding of multidimensional navigation and began folding space around entire Devourer formations, trapping them in pocket dimensions where time moved at different rates and physics operated according to human design rather than enemy manipulation, while Colonel Mitchell's tactical expertise allowed the unified crew consciousness to coordinate attacks across 17 different dimensional phases simultaneously, striking at enemy vessels that existed partially outside normal reality and forcing them back into conventional space where human weapons could destroy them completely. The final stroke came when Commander Morrison's consciousness, serving as the central coordinating node for the Unity Protocol, realized that the ancient ships retained one last capability that Arya had never mentioned, a quantum entanglement system that connected them to similar vessels that had served other races during the original war. And his desperate activation signal awakened dormant fleets across the galaxy as dozens of alien civilizations that had also undergone the forgetting suddenly remembered their true history and arrived through quantum portals to join humanity's desperate last stand against the enemy that had consumed their ancestors. The battle's climax arrived when the combined consciousness of both ship crews channeled their unified will through the reality anchor systems, creating a wave of stabilized spacetime that swept through the Devourer fleet like an unstoppable force of nature, stripping away their ability to exist outside normal physics and reducing their vast armada to conventional matter that Aurora Jeger and White Blueshift systematically destroyed with weapons that fired concentrated packets of entropy, aging enemy vessels millennia in seconds and turning their biomechanical hulls to cosmic dust that scattered harmlessly across the void, while the liberated consciousness of trillions of consumed beings finally found peace in the quantum realm between dimensions.